What is up everyone, tis I, Z Gaming Guy, and today I'm going to be showing you my setup at the start of 2018. Now in this video, I'm going to be showing you just the equipment, not the software and things. That'll come in a different video, so keep an eye out for that. I'll basically walk you through how I edit videos, what softwares I use, tips and tricks basically on editing portion in a different video like I said. Today, just the equipment. I'll give you a little bit of advice on some of the things to look out for that I've learned over the past year and I wish I knew in the beginning. So if you already know quite a bit about this kind of stuff, most of this won't come as a surprise. This is mostly my experience over the last year from all different sources in one video as far as equipment is concerned. So let's get into the actual tour and the discussion. Okay, so starting off, as you can see, we have a massive freaking green screen. It's really freaking big. There's the guppies, very important. That should be in every kit if you want to do YouTube. The chair I use, had to show this off, the gaming chair with the headset. Sorry, this camera only has one zoom and it's a really fucking big zoom is basically what it's on constantly. So I use, as you can see, the Corsair gaming headset. It's pretty good. Over here, from where I'm looking, is my lights with the, I guess I don't need those on, let me take those off. Anyway, so yes, the lights that I use to reflect back at me. The reason the umbrella helps, for one thing, it doesn't have a shine onto the camera, causing it to kind of get confused a bit, I noticed, and it's not so much of a direct light having a bunch of white spots, basically. Here's my computer. Well, there's my actual computer down there. It's an HP Omen. It's actually very beastly. I'm very happy with it. And these are also Omen, come on, zoom in, there we go. Omen desktops. So yes, I am rocking that dual monitor. There's my, one of my softwares going to work right there. You're zooming in everywhere. Autofocus, please work with me. The keyboard I use for the most part is the Death Adder Elite, I believe it's called. It's a mechanical keyboard. I really like it, but the problem is with recording, you can hear it in the background a lot. So actually, back there, don't know if you can really see it, is, well, you can't really see it. But that's a shitty keyboard that came with some stuff, and I use that when I'm recording so that way you can't hear me bapping away at these buttons here. There's a mouse I use. Don't know what brand it is, but there you go. If you recognize it, go ahead and say it in the comments. I do have one of these little, extendable mic stand things right here. And I have to attach it to this table TV tray because you can't actually clamp onto the side of this since it's way too thick and there's just complications with it. But that's what I'm using. It's nice, but I wish I had a bigger one. So definitely keep that in mind if you're wanting to get one of those. I would definitely suggest putting in some money on these pop filters though. These are actually quite nice to stop the P's and T's and your breathing and swallowing, some of that stuff. It helps negate some of that noise. Currently I'm using the mic, but I'm going to pull away for a moment to show you what it is. It's just the Blue Yeti. And here's the camera I am currently using, the Canon EOS Rebel SL2. It is an absolute monster. The quality is fantastic, ignoring my shaky hands. And I of course can't go without showing off the Elgato HD60 upside down, but I'm sure you could figure it out. It's very good for capturing gameplay at 60 frames per second, so 10 out of 10 would touch with the PP again. Okay, so now that I showed you what equipment I use, let me walk you through what you should be looking for when you're getting equipment. Now, if you plan on going with the green screen route, make sure you get something that's kind of soft, I guess, if that makes sense. It can absorb light well, not reflect it. Something like muslin, I think it's called, is M-U-S-L-I-N. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, but that's what I have. And it does a good job of spreading out light well. Because if you have something that reflects, there'll be bright spots on the green screen, making it difficult for you to take out the green later in editing. Also very important to green screen is lighting. I do have my two lights that mainly illuminate me, but it also does a good job of spreading out light behind me, and I have two other small lights. They're just little desk lights pointing kind of from the side at it like that to try to keep it even. Because if you see right now, right over here is kind of a dark spot. I think once it's in editing, it should be for the most part fine, but in some cases with some cameras that don't have as much color range, it would have a hard time taking that out because it's darker than the rest, so it's a different shade of green. It's a whole pain in the ass, so definitely make sure your lighting is good. Now when it comes to PCs and laptops and stuff like that, I don't think there's much you really need to know that you don't already probably know. Most of it's pretty basic, but I would definitely suggest things that are really good at multitasking, because if you're going to be someone like me who will stream, maybe even record at the same time, and you have things going off like importing and converting and rendering and all this nonsense, you want to make sure it can handle it, and you want to make sure it can run fine. So that to me is one of the biggest things, is that it can multitask well. Now, as for microphones, something that I think is the most important in terms of microphones is ones that are capable of singling out you versus the environment. As in, you don't want your microphone to be always picking up every little car that goes by, all that fan noise and stuff. There's ways around it, sure, in editing, but you want to do as little as possible in terms of editing out that stuff, for one, for just time's sake, and two, to keep the quality good. So I would definitely suggest looking into mics that are good at finding you. Like this mic, the Blue Yeti, has several settings where right now it's focusing on just the end where I'm talking into. There's other ends where it focuses on my end and the other end for like an interview. And there's ones where it's like all around for like a podcast and stuff like that. So obviously I'm going to mainly have it on the one just focusing on me, because that's what I want to do. So that way it doesn't pick up like my keyboard and stuff as bad as it normally would. The Blue Snowball is okay, but when I went to the Blue Yeti, I noticed a significant upgrade. And a lot of people say this is basically the high-end beginner's mic. It's not going to be something that big YouTubers probably use. They probably have something much more advanced, but this is still a really solid mic. Now this one's a little weird that I'm going to talk about the chair. Chairs actually matter more than you'd think, especially if you're going to be a gaming YouTuber, because you're going to be sitting your fat ass down on a chair a lot. And the thing about this chair is it forces you to have good posture. So it's good to know that like I'm not really hurting my back all that bad by the end of the day, because when I use my other, just crappy computer chair, my back did hurt quite a bit. But since I switched to this, it kind of forces me to have a better posture, and I feel better after long sessions of recording and editing. So I think you should keep that in mind when you're looking for a chair that you want to use as this. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is definitely the most important thing, and that's about the camera. The one you want to use Facecam for. Now, I know a lot of you would probably want to just go with something like OBS, right? And while OBS is, it's simpler and it is easier, I'd say, the problem with that is it all comes as a single file. From what I understand, I've found no way around that. In other words, you can't move around your Facecam and things separately from each other, where what I like to do that a lot. And the reason I bring that up is because usually in OBS you'd use something like a webcam, maybe even a higher end webcam. I like to use just a camera and put it onto my computer. So I import my videos from my camera onto my computer, and depending on the camera, it can get complicated. And let me walk you through that real quick. So on my old Sony camera that I used, basically, like, I wanted a 60 frames per second camera, right? This was kind of important. 1080p, 60 FPS. It's what I wanted to go for. When I finally found one, I thought, cool, this is great. This even doesn't record in like sessions. Like my current camera records 30 minutes at a time, which I didn't know. I wish I did, but it records 30 minutes at a time, stops on its own, doesn't restart on its own. I have to get up and press it. Super inconvenient, and may have affected my decision a bit if I had known that. It's still a great camera, but just worth mentioning. With my Sony one though, I didn't need to do that, but the big problem is, and this was huge, was when I import, first, like I said, I'd import the video. But with the Sony Vegas one, it came in as like an AVC or AAVC file, not an MP4 file. And the software I use to edit does not accept that file, and I needed to convert it to an MP4. So not only did I need to import it, then I needed to convert it, which took hours sometimes, depending, because I record long sessions. I have pretty long videos. If I record an hour and a half, that can take like 2 goddamn hours. I mean, now that I have the new computer, it takes like 40 minutes, but this is like a beastly computer and it still takes like 40 minutes. You can only imagine when you're using kind of a lower end one, that shit takes hours. Something like a Life is Strange playthrough literally took like 24 hours. So make sure you're looking into that. Try to study up on the camera you want to use to know whether or not you're going to have to convert it. If you're capable of recording an MP4, because that is what you want to shoot for, it seems to be accepted across most, if not all, editing softwares. So I would definitely make sure you're looking out for what file it records in. That's something people don't talk about enough, and it saves a ton of time because my current camera, I don't need to do that. I can just drag it straight from there onto my editing software and save hours. And it is fantastic. That way I don't need to stay up till 2 in the morning now, only midnight. Also, one other big gripe I had with the cameras I had up to this point was the coloring. They all seemed very pale. If you go back to some of my older videos, even like a month ago, they looked pretty bland, you know, like they just kind of seemed colorless almost compared to now, where it is naturally bringing out the colors and it looks more like it should in person. So that's another thing to consider. It doesn't need to be like, you know, high definition HDR or whatever coloring. It doesn't need to go that route. I mean, you can if you want, but honestly, like, I feel like the clarity of the camera and the coloring and what file it records in are some of the most important things I'd look for. Obviously, you don't need, like, I think the camera I have, honestly, is probably a bit of overkill, but that's okay. I mean, I'm constantly wanting to upgrade, and that's just a me thing. The one I had before perfectly worked fine. This one here, when you could count the camera and the lens, is about $700. And you don't need to do that, obviously. Maybe just wait and let YouTube invest into it, and maybe then you can do something like that. But starting off, absolutely not necessary. The minimum you should hit is 720p. I personally think 60 frames per second is really nice to hit. It makes things seem a little more smooth, but it's not essential. Mostly the coloring and the format it records is, like I said, some of the most important ones. And that about does it, you guys. I showed you off what I had, what I'm using, and I kind of tried to give you some explanations on my experience on what to look for. I hope that some of this did help you out. I hope you learned something new. I know that if you've already been studying your ass off on all this, you probably know pretty much everything I said, maybe besides the format it records in. But other than that, I hope that you got something out of it and it was some useful information. If not, maybe you just found it interesting. I would like to say, though, thanks to you guys is why I have all this. Like I said, I let YouTube invest into it itself, and thanks to the support you guys showed by watching my videos, and recently you guys have been donating a lot and it's really been helping out, is 100% because of you guys donating on streams and viewing the videos that I was able to purchase this camera. I would not have done it if it wasn't for you guys, so thank you for helping the channel grow and become better quality. So just know, if we do hit that 100K, 1 million, whatever mark, you can look at the channel and say, we were the building support for this channel. We are the reason, as in you guys, you are the reason that the channel was able to grow at all. So thank you. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.